By 1944, World War II's relentless tide in the Pacific was turning against the Axis powers decisively and irrevocably. Japanese forces, despite overwhelming Allied superiority, maintained a tenacious, often suicidal, defensive posture, making every advance costly. This necessitated a new American capability, less dependent on brute force and more reliant on strategic, disruptive intelligence gathering. It was not a new bomber or devastating bomb, but a revolutionary electronic warfare capacity systematically dismantling Japan's modern conflict ability. To grasp its impact, one must appreciate the operational weaknesses of the Japanese military, whose logistics networks were severely stretched. Unlike the Allies pouring resources into advanced radar and secure communications, Japan relied heavily on predictable high-frequency radio. Japan used radio for vital tasks, including coordinating fleets, managing air defense grids, and directing essential supply convoys effectively. This reliance became their most critical, exploited vulnerability, effectively broadcasting their entire operational blueprint into the airwaves for all. The true game-changer was the synergistic application of SIGINT combined with sophisticated electronic countermeasures being successfully applied. Allied code-breaking efforts targeted Japanese naval codes, primarily JN-25, centered at critical facilities like Station Hypo for decryption analysis. By this crucial year, Allied cryptographers were reading significant Japanese naval communications with chilling speed and accuracy, providing foreknowledge. This secret weapons first component meant the U.S. Navy frequently knew the destination of supply convoys well in advance. They knew planned reinforcement of remote garrisons and the movements of entire battle groups before Japanese commanders could react. This critical intelligence was operationalized through the unrestricted submarine warfare campaign being executed effectively and immediately. The second, and arguably most destructive, element was American submarines previously patrolling the Pacific relatively blind, now precisely vectored. They used decrypted messages as virtual treasure maps, marking the exact time, location, and composition of the enemy's logistics. The results were catastrophic for Japan. Allied submarines sank over $2.6 million tons of Japanese shipping in 1944 alone. This effectively starved the imperial war machine, preventing fuel from reaching airbases, food reaching isolated soldiers, and raw materials reaching factories. This systematic economic strangulation was achieved not through massive fleet engagements but through silent, precise strikes based entirely on superior prior knowledge. Beyond passive intelligence, the secret weapon extended to active electronic superiority using sophisticated radar systems like the SCR-584. These systems gave U.S. forces the ability to detect Japanese formations much sooner, particularly at night or in adverse weather conditions. Furthermore, the U.S. began actively deploying electronic countermeasures, including chaff and dedicated radio jammers against enemy signals. These countermeasures confused and blinded Japanese radar operators, causing American fleets to appear inaccurately on enemy screens, leading to strategic blindness. This tactical blindness often resulted in devastating ambushes instead of successful interceptions, granting the Allies the essential element of surprise repeatedly. The cumulative effect of this secret weapon became profoundly psychological as well as physically damaging to the entire war effort. Japanese commanders were plagued by a deep, unsettling suspicion that the enemy anticipated their every strategic move and operational decision. This led to constant operational failures and forced them into a state of defensive paralysis, hindering effective counterplanning and reaction. Constant code changes and communication protocol shifts consumed valuable time and resources while the Allied decryption effort quickly adapted to the new ciphers. In major naval actions, such as the Battle of the Philippine Sea, Japanese losses were significantly exacerbated by superior American radar guidance. Tactical foreknowledge, derived directly from timely SIGINT, demonstrated a war of attrition where the enemy was fighting virtually blind constantly. Ultimately, the secret weapon Japan couldn't counter was not a single conventional invention, but a comprehensive, intellectual system designed for victory. This combined application saved countless Allied lives, ensuring a more certain victory in the Pacific and fundamentally changing the outcome. This silent, intellectual war waged over the airwaves saved countless Allied lives while simultaneously bleeding the Imperial Japanese war effort dry strategically. It neutralized its air power, starved its industry, and ensured the decisive victory in the Pacific was achieved sooner with greater strategic certainty. The sheer geographical scale of the Pacific exposed Japanese logistics to devastating, long-range attrition attacks constantly and repeatedly. Their predictable communication methods, although efficient for them, were an inherent security flaw easily exploitable by the enemy. Station Hypo became the nerve center of this intellectual conflict, transforming radio signals into actionable intelligence about enemy plans. Cracking the JN-25 code provided a window directly into the Imperial Japanese Navy's operational thoughts, strategies, and deployment intentions. The intellectual effort required for this level of success was immense, yet the payoff in lives and resources saved was incalculably high. Foreknowledge allowed Allied commanders like Nimitz to anticipate and counter Japanese movements sometimes weeks before they were executed successfully. American submarines transformed from general area patrols to surgical, targeted ambush hunters guided by perfect enemy intelligence data. This new intelligence-driven warfare exponentially increased the effectiveness of the unrestricted submarine warfare campaign across the region. The sheer tonnage sunk, over $2.6 million tons, crippled Japan's ability to sustain its remote outposts and supply factories quickly. Cut off from food and reinforcement, many island garrisons were neutralized through starvation and disease rather than direct assault operations. On land and sea, the advanced American radar systems granted a critical edge in target acquisition and fire control accuracy consistently. This technological superiority made American forces masters of night combat and adverse weather operations, removing the element of chance from operations. The deliberate deployment of chaff and sophisticated jamming signals was designed to overwhelm the simple processing power of Japanese radar systems successfully. The result was an enemy defense system that was paralyzed by confusion, unable to distinguish between genuine contacts and clever electronic ghosts. American forces operated under a blanket of electronic security, effectively invisible, while their intelligence network knew the exact location of their enemy. The psychological impact became crippling. Commanders knew their communications were compromised, but they did not understand how or when fully. Every successful Allied attack, especially those involving surprise, fueled the deep, unsettling suspicion plaguing their strategic and tactical planning. This led to constant decision-making delays and missed opportunities for counterattack, effectively forcing them into a passive, defensive paralysis. The relentless Allied decryption effort quickly adapted to the new ciphers, negating any short-term security gains from the code changes quickly. The Battle of the Philippine Sea proved the devastating consequence of superior radar, intelligence, and fighter direction being used consistently. Japanese pilots flew directly into a well-prepared and deadly Allied defense, having no idea their mission plans were completely known. This was a war of attrition where one side possessed a comprehensive, clear view of the battlefield while the opposing side was fighting completely blind. The true secret weapon of 1944 was the mastery of the airwaves, a systematic intellectual effort that redefined strategic conflict for all time. This combined application saved countless Allied lives, ensuring a more certain victory in the Pacific and fundamentally changing the outcome. Hundreds of skilled personnel worked around the clock, treating the war as much a puzzle to be solved as a military campaign to be fought. This continuous stream of foreknowledge gave U.S. commanders an unparalleled advantage, effectively looking over the Japanese commanders' shoulders consistently. The submarine war became an execution of intelligence, a perfect alignment of tactical weaponry with flawless strategic information for interception. The success rates were staggering. American submariners developed a confidence bordering on certainty, knowing exactly where their target would appear. The logistical strangulation had a direct and immediate impact on Japan's industrial capacity and its civilian morale being affected severely. Electronic countermeasures were not brute force. They were meticulously engineered tactical tools designed to exploit specific vulnerabilities of enemy systems. Japanese air defense commanders struggled to organize their fighters, facing multiple ghost targets on their screens instead of the real threats immediately. The combination of superior radar and accurate intelligence made American night fighters particularly deadly and highly successful in dark operations. The constant, successful Allied surprise attacks led to a climate of fear and profound mistrust within the Japanese military leadership consistently. The urgent need to change communication protocols and ciphers became an operational necessity, yet it only consumed valuable strategic time and resources. Every major engagement demonstrated the devastating war of attrition, where superior information equaled superior firepower and much lower Allied losses. The mastery of the airwaves was the silent weapon that transformed the Pacific War, ensuring victory was not just possible, but inevitable over time. The overstretched imperial supply lines were inherently fragile, creating a vulnerability that advanced Allied intelligence exploited with devastating efficiency repeatedly. Japan's dependence on predictable high-frequency radio waves made their communications easy to intercept and locate by U.S. forces quickly. The systematic collection of signals intelligence was the crucial first step, providing the raw material for the codebreakers to analyze and decipher constantly. The successful cracking of JN-25 and other codes was a monumental intellectual achievement, granting the Allies a crystal-clear vision of their enemy's intentions. This foreknowledge allowed for preemptive strikes and optimal force deployment, creating a tactical asymmetry that the Japanese could never overcome successfully. The operational value of the decrypted messages was highest in the unrestricted submarine warfare campaign, turning hunters into assassins with great precision. Targeting supply convoys proved far more efficient than fleet battles, systematically crippling the Japanese ability to project power or sustain their forces properly. Beyond information gathering, the U.S. military invested heavily in active technological superiority, ensuring they were the masters of the night sky and the open ocean at all times. Electronic countermeasures effectively placed a digital cloak over American forces, creating a field of confusion and false signals for the frustrated enemy forces. The psychological warfare inherent in this electronic superiority led Japanese commanders to doubt their own instrument readings constantly and repeatedly. Operational failures became the norm, not the exception, shattering the imperial military's strategic confidence and belief in its own capabilities. This technological and informational dominance saved thousands of Allied lives, reducing the need for costly, large-scale, brute force assaults against the enemy. The silent warfare waged over the airwaves had a lethal and decisive physical outcome that was utterly inescapable for the isolated Japanese garrisons. The lessons of 1944 remain foundational. Information superiority continues to define the strategic landscape of modern military conflicts globally. The scale of the Allied investment in cryptanalysis was unprecedented, treating information superiority as critical as any naval fleet deployment. This continuous stream of foreknowledge gave U.S. commanders an unparalleled advantage, effectively looking over the Japanese commanders' shoulders consistently. The submarine war became an execution of intelligence, a perfect alignment of tactical weaponry with flawless strategic information for interception. The success rates were staggering. American submariners developed a confidence bordering on certainty, knowing exactly where their target would appear. The logistical strangulation had a direct and immediate impact on Japan's industrial capacity and its civilian morale being affected severely. Electronic countermeasures were not brute force. They were meticulously engineered tactical tools designed to exploit specific vulnerabilities of enemy systems. Japanese air defense commanders struggled to organize their fighters, facing multiple ghost targets on their screens instead of the real threats immediately. The combination of superior radar and accurate intelligence made American night fighters particularly deadly and highly successful in dark operations. The constant, successful Allied surprise attacks led to a climate of fear and profound mistrust within the Japanese military leadership consistently. The urgent need to change communication protocols and ciphers became an operational necessity, yet it only consumed valuable strategic time and resources. Every major engagement demonstrated the devastating war of attrition, where superior information equaled superior firepower and much lower Allied losses. The mastery of the airwaves was the silent weapon that transformed the Pacific War, ensuring victory was not just possible, but inevitable over time. The ability to rapidly adapt fleet movements based on intercepted plans allowed the U.S. to always dictate the terms of engagement and the battle area. The lack of fuel, medical supplies, and food created a weakened, demoralized fighting force that often surrendered without a proper engagement successfully. The resources poured into this invisible war were massive, a testament to the strategic commitment the Allied leadership made to information superiority and speed. Every message was a window, and the cryptographer's job was to ensure that window remained open, despite every Japanese attempt to shut it down. The high accuracy of the submarine attacks was not luck, but the direct result of having the precise coordinates and timing from intercepted enemy communication signals. Starved of essential fuel and replacement parts, the once feared Japanese air power was grounded, reducing its striking potential dramatically and immediately. Electronic superiority cleared the skies, allowing American bombing campaigns to proceed with far less resistance and significantly fewer losses of their own aircraft. The technological development of active electronic countermeasures, like jammers, marked a permanent shift in how modern naval and air battles would be fought. The chaos sowed by the electronic war was just as effective as any bomb, creating tactical indecision and paralyzing the enemy command structure consistently. This unprecedented level of informational and electronic dominance ensured that the final Allied victory was not just a matter of time but a fundamental strategic certainty. The secret weapon of 1944 remains a powerful, compelling historical example of how superior intelligence and technology can overcome a determined, but technologically vulnerable, foe. Beyond victory, this silent war saved countless Allied lives by reducing the need for bloody island-hopping assaults, achieving a military goal efficiently. The economic and psychological strangulation achieved by this comprehensive information warfare made the eventual Japanese surrender a logical, inevitable conclusion to the entire conflict. This era fundamentally redefined warfare, shifting the battleground from just the sea and land to the invisible, ever-present airwaves above and below all else. The combination of code breaking, signals intelligence, and electronic warfare remains the most powerful and quiet force multiplier in modern military history successfully. The Imperial Navy's failure to prioritize secure, low-emission radio communications became a catastrophic strategic oversight for the entire war effort. Allied wartime research and development efforts ensured a continuous and widening technological gap that Japanese forces could simply never overcome or bridge successfully. The disparity in information access meant that one side fought with certainty while the other was continuously plagued by tactical and strategic doubt completely. The isolation of Japanese troops became a weapon in itself, enforced by the submarine campaign and intelligence that ruthlessly denied all essential supply lines. Japanese submarine operations, lacking the Allied intelligence advantage, were often blind and ineffective compared to the enemy's focused precision and accuracy. The sheer volume of radio chatter provided a rich intelligence vein. The trick was to filter out the noise and isolate the critical command and control messages quickly. Electronic countermeasures served as a temporary, portable tactical shield, ensuring American strike forces could penetrate Japanese defenses without suffering heavy losses. The profound, unsettling suspicion that the enemy anticipated their every move became a paralyzing factor, leading to indecision and operational passivity over time. While new Japanese codes were introduced, the Allied decryption effort possessed the superior intellectual and technological momentum to break them down immediately. Tactical foreknowledge turned the Philippine Sea into a turkey shoot, proving that information was indeed the ultimate force multiplier and tactical advantage. The systematic, combined application of this intelligence-driven warfare secured the decisive victory, changing the trajectory of the Pacific War and its historical outcome. The commitment to information superiority became the cornerstone of American strategy, proving its value as a force that saved both time and human lives. The economic strangulation was a slow but absolute death blow, ensuring that the Japanese ability to continue modern conflict simply withered away completely. Calm, confident planning based on facts replaced reckless risk-taking, which was the hallmark of the entire American military command structure consistently. Every action was coordinated, precise, and maximally effective, demonstrating a complete technological and intellectual mastery over all opposing forces. The constant changes in Japanese communication protocols only served to delay their own operations, while the Allied decryption teams quickly overcame the new challenges. This silent, intellectual war was not just about victory. It was about achieving that victory with a dramatically reduced cost in precious human lives being spared effectively. Signals intelligence, code breaking, and electronic warfare became the true triumvirate of American victory in the Pacific against a determined and fierce foe. The decisive victory in the Pacific was achieved sooner and with greater strategic certainty, thanks to the mastery of the invisible airwaves.